The company itself, just for a bit of orientation for everybody, it's about 3 hours north of Winnipeg. So this isn't a far north type project. It's easily accessible by main road. We have a road that cuts right through the heart of the property. The mill, we've got a permitted mill, permitted tailings pond, full camp infrastructure, hundreds of kilometers of development underground, which is hard to imagine. But when you look at the maze and the network of the underground, you see all the work that's gone on here. It's a past producer, so it's a combined production of around 2.3 million ounces.
Well, Shaun, thanks for joining us here today on Minestock Talk. It's very lovely to see you. And so I guess we'll kick it off with a brief introduction about yourself, your background, career path, how you ended up at 1911 Gold, a little bit about your role. And also we noticed that there's some very exciting news that's come out about the True North property. And it kind of sounds like to us that maybe you found Manitoba's version of the El Dorado.
Oh, I don't know if I could beat that one, but that's pretty good. I'll take it. Yeah, I'd like to thank you both for hosting me today, and I really appreciate the opportunity, obviously, to share the 1911 story with your followers and viewers. Hopefully they find this as compelling as I do. I've really kind of embraced this project along with all the others that are involved right now and see really kind of a really big potential here. I mean, this is a Manitoba story, so it's a little unusual for gold. You don't see a lot of gold projects in that province, but this one is really, it's quite interesting. I mean, it's on that same greenstone belt that has the large Red Lake camp to the east of us, just 100 kilometers away. And then just stepping out a little further, you've got that large First Mining project. So there's a lot going on in this particular greenstone belt, and 1911 really has kind of the whole western part of it. So really good opportunity. The company itself, just for a bit of orientation for everybody, it's about 3 hours north of Winnipeg. So this isn't a far north type project. It's easily accessible by main road. We have a road that cuts right through the heart of the property. The mill, we've got a permitted mill, permitted tailings pond, full camp infrastructure, hundreds of kilometers of development underground, which is hard to imagine. But when you look at the maze and the network of the underground, you see all the work that's gone on here. It's a past producer, so it's a combined production of around 2.3 million ounces. The main mine where a lot of our focus is right now, it's just over 1.6 million ounces. And at the start of its life, from the 30s to the 60s, this was known as one of the highest grade producers in Canada, averaging around 8 to 9 grams per ton from that underground mine. And obviously, it's clearly capable of producing at those levels again, with appropriate mining methods and style, and with the work that our team's doing. Like I said, we've got a really highly qualified team now kind of wrapped around this project, guys that have built and drilled out mine deposits elsewhere for other companies. A lot of fresh eyes here, and we see a lot of potential around this project, especially given that all that CapEx is already in the ground or on the ground, and everything is ready to go and exceptionally well maintained at this stage.
The project has a mill. It's just for our viewers to understand that. Is it within a community, and how is infrastructure nearby it? Obviously, you'll be working at reestablishing the mill, we assume.
Yeah, it does have so there's a existing permitted 1,300 ton per day mill. It's run up to 2,300 tons a day in the past. It's a matter of additional crushing capacity. It's actually, funny enough, it is located right on the eastern part of the town of Bessette. This is a well-loved mine in that community. We put out a video quite recently where you get to see some cameos from some locals, and you could just tell that their heart's kind of in this property. We give back a lot to the area, and there's local First Nations communities both to the southwest and directly west of us, and then even further to the south of us, closer to Winnipeg. There's three main groups, but all very supportive. We have good relations there as well. It's a mill that's currently operational. We were running it up to the end of 2022. We were retreating tailings for a period of time. Everything you need is in place right now, and we're actually going through a bit of an exercise in fixing some of the things that always gave us some hang-ups in the past. But there's not a lot of capital really required there for the mill itself, and we have lots of capacity in the tailings pond as well, which is always an open question. Do you need to put a raise on right away? know we've got 2 to 3 years of capacity, and then we can slowly start to put that raise on in the second or third year of operations, and it's a relatively inexpensive process. So it's got a lot of great things going on it for it in terms of a restart costs and what's required. We've got a really minimal capex ahead of us to build the restart. And as you can see from a lot of our focus, at least for this year, we're a lot more concentrated around finding opportunities around the mine for additional feed for the mill. We've had really good success on two particular zones, which we've highlighted in the last probably 4 news releases. But we've identified 2 new vein structures that basically run parallel, one to the southeast and one just to the west. So right within close proximity of the existing mine workings, and we're having a lot of success in extending those 2 veins further below surface. And we expect those to continue down to depth, well over a kilometer. So really good opportunity on top of the existing 1.1 million ounce resource that we already have in that underground mine right now.
Well, all that deserves a little bit of a golden handshake, I'd say. Don't mind my cheesy little jokes. I like them sometimes. Makes it a little bit fun.
Gold jokes all day long.
Oh, great. That's amazing. Now, over to True North in particular. And so one of the things that I wanted to ask you, Shaun, is what would you say is one of the most significant takeaways from the latest intersection at San Antonio West? And how do you think it would impact, or how does it impact your understanding of the zone in its entirety?
There's a few key things about that news release. You obviously put the headline kind of intercept there on the title. We had the meter of 62.4 grams per ton. And for those that think that's narrow, well, you can cut it in 3. Say we take out 3 meters, you're still doing 15 to 20 grams per ton. So it's still an amazing intercept, no matter how much dilution you take on that, which is why it's still a highlight. But when you look further down in that news release, you do see a lot of other wider zones of 6 to 8 grams per ton that we intercepted with those drill holes. And we've actually got another 7 drill holes pending. So we have more results on that particular area coming, and those ones will be a little bit deeper. Not all of them, but a few of those are going to be a little bit deeper. So we've managed to trace it down at depth. We did continue to hit those structures in those deeper holes. So we obviously need to see what comes back in terms of grade and width, but we're confident about the actual vein itself in terms of its continuity below surface. And the other really interesting thing about that particular area is we encountered 3 vein structures with several holes that we drilled. 2 of those we were expecting, the third one we weren't. So it's too early to call it a new discovery in terms of it's a vein structure that hasn't been historically identified. It could be a splay off of one of the other 2 veins, so more drilling is required. But what that does for us is it gives us a lot of room in terms of mining. So now we've got 3 vein structures, all of which are basically going to come down and follow that to the northeast. And that really cuts down on or improves the quality of our underground mining when we get into those areas, because you can see them. They're within 50 meters of each other. So it gives us a lot of opportunity when we actually start to mine that particular vein. And like I said earlier, this is only about 500-600 meters off of the mine, and it's coming towards the mine infrastructure. So as it gets closer, it's going to get easier and easier to take it with the existing A shaft that goes, that's what it's moving in towards. So those are kind of the key takeaways. Lots of high grade. We've shown continuity within those 3 vein structures. We've hit them repeatedly. We've got drill holes coming that testing it at depth, but we know we hit that same structure. We just don't know the grade yet. So we're getting a lot of confidence around that one. And that's on top of that San Antonio Southeast one that we've already put out a couple of news releases on, which also is really working out very well. And we tried to highlight in that past news release how that one looks like it's going to intersect with a very large, well-known resource down at the bottom of the mine known as the 710, 711 area. I don't make these names up. I just inherited them. But and that's a known 310,000 ounce resource, high grade for even compared to the rest of our mine. And that's about a kilometer down. So both of these look like, at least a kilometer of strike lengths from where we're drilling right now down to where they might end. But I don't think they're going to end. It's just a matter of following them as they get further down. And at what point do they become too challenging? So We've seen mines in Canada go for 3-4 kilometers, so there's a long way to go here, I think.
How is it with permits now? Is the mill able to operate, and you're drilling and finding more source, but what does permitting look like? It is Manitoba. A lot of people aren't aware of it.
Look, I'm not gonna say we don't have to worry about anything, but this is a permitted mine lease area. So our drilling is a perfect example. We didn't need to get permitted to drill. We let them know, and obviously we want to have a very good relationship with the Manitoba Mines Branch and the Manitoba Permitting Office, so they were fully aware of what our plans were, where we were looking to drill. But it wasn't a matter of permission; it was just a matter of information sharing, and that's not that dissimilar from what we're going to go through in terms of a startup. So when we're ready to do, say, a bulk sample, we're working on trying to get a bulk sample done sometime early next year. Don't need a permit. Again, it's an information sharing exercise. As long as we've got room in the tailings, we've been operating the tailings continuously, never stopped, right? So we manage the water levels, we manage the sampling and all that kind of stuff. That's always ongoing. So our permits are all in good standing. We're classified technically as suspension of operations right now, which is just, it's not a shutdown, it's not an abandonment. It's a matter of right now we're not processing. Later on, notifications provided to the province. They'll probably give us 30 days or whatever, guys, because we don't do this all the time, and then we get up and running, and away we go. So I don't foresee any particular issues. Manitoba in general is not a very challenging province to get permitting, as long as you've got the support in place with local communities, local First Nations, and there's really not been any particularly major issues. You see, Alamo's got the Lynn Lake operation going up there. And that's just a sign of the attitude of this province. It's resource friendly. They want to see these projects go ahead. They love critical metals, but they like a good gold operation too. And they're very supportive of those types of operations that provide significant job opportunities locally. So very happy with our situation and the sentiment towards this operation in particular.
So you've got good community and good jurisdiction to work in, infrastructure. You mentioned some things about cash flow, etc. But so right now, for what kind of cash position do you have, and will that last for a serious drilling program, etc.?
Can't really disclose our current cash position, as you know. We last disclosed was all the way back in December, which was still well over almost $8 million. Clearly, I don't have $8 million right now. Our drill program has been a lot more ambitious than what we had originally planned for. We had thought we would drill around 8 to 10,000. I have this lingering Zurich Swiss mining cough going on. So anyway, we thought we were going to drill around 8 to 10,000 meters by now. We've actually drilled almost 15,000 meters because of the success, particularly on those two areas. We did test a couple of new areas too that we'll put out a little bit later. We cut the core and sent the samples in related to the two areas of focus earlier, so you end up pushing the other ones aside, not because of anything other than just prioritizing those areas where you can really show some significant progress. But we've actually got 4 different other target areas that we're going to come out with probably in June, I think, just based on the pace of things. We're going to get two more news releases related to San Antonio Southeast and then San Antonio West again, and then coupled in there will be another one on the other ones. That's kind of where we're at. We're making some good progress on the project and with the direction we're going. I think the other question there, the other thing I really want to emphasize too, is that we recently hired a senior mining engineer resource. This was about 3-4 weeks ago. We kind of bundled it with the announcement of our return to the underground. And he's now working very closely with 𝐆𝐿𝐼ch𝐃 in terms of putting together an underground mine strategy. So we're starting to crystallize a little bit in terms of concept application on how we're going to mine certain parts of the underground. What's this going to look like? What's the development cost? And those are going to be numbers we can start to speak to a little bit more clearly as we get through the next few months. Likely we'll target to get some kind of engineering study out by the end of the year. Whether or not it's highly likely it'll be something like a preliminary economic assessment built on the resource we've got. So we're not going to be able to add a lot of new ounces, but what we'll try to do is just show you exactly what the economics look like with what we've already got. And then we can talk about the potential with all these other new zones and new vein structures that are coming in. that's kind of more on the mining side, but we're making significant progress on both tracks because I think there is an appetite to see this return to production as quickly as possible, but in as a responsible manner. For us, that means optimal number of working faces in the underground, flexibility in operation, de-risking some of the areas where people point to that were challenges in the past, with dilution and the transit of ore to surface, those kind of areas. So we want to make sure we have a complete answer by the time we get back into production. There'll be a lot of news flow, I think, over the next 4 to 5 months on all these types of items as we work through them.
Well, given the fact that it's a past producing property, I think puts a golden ticket in your back pocket already. So, I mean, that's just something that new investors that are taking a look at 1911 should really take into consideration, but also the current shareholders. And so, speaking of that, what would you say at this present time is 911's Gold's long-term vision for True North, and how does the company plan to create value for the current shareholders?
Everybody investing and looking at this project needs to keep a couple things in mind. I mean, we talk about assets and infrastructure, and we kind of gloss over the underground infrastructure. I mentioned there's multi-kilometers of development in the underground, and what that really ultimately means is our ability to ramp up production once we've put our mine plans together is relatively quick. We don't need a lot of underground infrastructure. The development is already there. We're very close to the existing resource as it stands. So what our plan really here is to continue to do exploration around the mine, to expand the resource potential, to show that there is a 3 to 4 million ounce potential, potentially 5, depending, this isn't going to be, next year's mineral resource update's not going to be 5 million ounces, but you're going to start to see a line of sight on that potential by multiple areas that we're testing. So that's going to take place over the next 12 to 18 months. But on the back of that is also this engineering work that June and Eric Vignette are undertaking on the underground, working on, where can we get that initial bulk sample? We want to test a few concepts. We want to see if ore sorting works well here. We want to see, if material handling options are there that allow us to move ore quickly to surface from areas that are further away, and see what we can do there. And then from that initial bulk sample, you slowly move into, a ramp up into production. And, I see that happening over the next, 18 to 24 months. We obviously want to catch this gold price. I don't think it's going away, but obviously I want to make sure we catch it as soon as we can. And I think investors do need to keep that in mind. This is one of the nearest term opportunities for a low risk, you're still getting that exploration leverage. So you're getting a low price and, a minimal downside risk, but you're getting an extreme leveraged exposure to the upside of a gold producer, because we're not going to go through a lengthy permitting process. There's not like a huge development cycle ahead of us. So it's really a matter of, here's the resource we've got, here's the mining strategy, here are the steps we're going to do to get into production, and we're going to be into production on a fairly concrete and clear timetable, which will obviously crystallize a lot better over the next 4 to 5 months. Following that, on the more growth-oriented, pure exploration side, where people like to have exposure, we have this entire greenstone belt, over 62,000 hectares. The mill itself, just to remember, is right in the middle of our property, and it's got road access from end to end. So everything is within 20 to 30 minutes away from our mill, and we have multi-kilometer structures on other parts of the property, particularly to the southeast, where there's 3 historic producers, as well as a known resource, 43101 resource at Ogama Rockland, which is a high-grade, shallow. It's about 340,000 ounces at 8 grams per ton. We're going to redo that one this year and get that republished as well. But our work to date doesn't show any particular concerns or issues with that resource. So I think it's fairly solid. And then we have 2 other historic producers nearby, the Central Manitoba mine, the Gunner mine. We've done some drilling in those areas. We see a lot of opportunity for a real kind of hub and spoke operation, over the next 5 to 7 years. You bring in 1 or 2 mines down in that area, and every one of them, Ogama is a little bit of an unusual one, but it still has a lot of potential. But you get into Central, which is a huge structure, 2.5 kilometers, on surface, you've got the potential for a second True North mine in there, and you've got obviously other opportunities where that could reoccur as well. So all of a sudden you go from a 70, 80,000 ounce producer to 130 to 150,000 ounce producer, all within the same property. We own everything 100%, and there's no debt or royalties on this property right now, which gives us a lot of flexibility in terms of future financing of those types of, development projects. So I think what people will see here is we've got a 1 to 2 year horizon for return to production, or 1.5 to 2 year horizon to return to production. All in costs somewhere around 1,800 to 1,900 Canadian an ounce, kind of in line with what you see with some of the other companies with similar types of deposits. That will obviously crystallize by the end of the year, a lot more concretely anyways, what that number is. So you've got at least a double in terms of your margin on the gold price. And then on top of that, you can see a line of sight on the growth from, like I said, from a 70, 80,000 ounce producer to 150,000 ounce producer. And that will probably actually result in a lower cost of production because you're starting to bring in more areas. So your milling costs getting spread out over a larger number of ounces. And there's a lot of high grade, particularly in that southeast area. So I suspect that's going to be more like a 7 or 8 gram per ton type resources out in that section, just based on his history there. So I think that's the way I look at this. I think there's real potential for this to become a very large Canadian producer again, in a very low risk path to getting there. We've got a lot of work ahead of us, but it's all high quality value add, and I'm really happy with the team we've got. Gary and I work really well together. He brings the geology hat, I bring the finance hat. You got Eric there, and you got McKelly and his team. So I couldn't really ask for a better group to be working with on this project, and everybody's really excited to make this happen.
Well, it sounds incredible, as we've been following you along for a while now, as you know, and to us, the project's amazing. But just tell us this, what kind of shareholder base do you kind of have? Just to address that a little bit. And the other thing is, you brought it up already, it's really important to Robin and I, is the community factor, that there are First Nations nearby. I think you've already dealt with that, but just kind of give us a kind of a picture of what that looks like and the shareholder base.
Yeah, sure. No, I see those both as strengths for us. Like I mentioned already, the town of Bessette itself is, it's grown up around the mine. The mine came first. The town grew up around it. One of the funniest discussions was, what should we do when it comes time to reclaim this property, right? That's always you made a mess, now clean it up. Now this is actually not that messy, but that's just, the anecdotal way to put it. Feedback was, well, as much of it as you can leave intact would be better because we can turn it into a museum or an attraction. That's obviously a problem for, 30, 40 years from now, based on how things are going. But that's just the general attitude. People really enjoy having it there. We don't cause a lot of disturbance. We lend a lot of help to the town. We support the school. We do as much as we can to maintain a strong community. And obviously, some of that for us is important because as we build up our operations again, we're going to be attracting people that are going to want to relocate to that town again, and we want to make sure that the infrastructure is there and that the community is ready for it. They've seen it before, and at this point they're ready and excited to see it again. When you step out to some of the First Nations communities, they're roughly 40 to 50 minutes away. Some of the legacy issues are always around water management and property trap lines, making sure you respect the trap lines that are in place. And that's something that we've always been very aware of. And obviously there's consultation with respect to exploration strategy. When we get to that southeastern part of the property, we want to make sure that they're on board. There's a bit of park, there's a bit of public land there. It's a big mix. Fortunately or unfortunately, there's a lot of disturbance there already because there's been a lot of mining in that area. So it's not exactly pristine, but but I think that for us, that kind of a side note, it helps. But we maintain those relations quite regularly, and I've really picked up my outreach to those groups this year because I think we're getting there, right? We want to make sure that everybody's on board, that beneficial agreements are in place, and that everybody's happy with the direction we're going and sees the employment opportunity, which is a big deal, particularly for those two communities, because there's not a lot of other opportunities in the area. And these ultimately turn into really high-paying, high-skilled jobs that allows them to kind of grow their internal bandwidth to take on other opportunities, which is what we've seen historically. At one point, Hollowater was actually a big mining community, and then when this mine shut down, a lot of those mining people had to find work elsewhere. We want to bring those people back. Sound like Pierre Poilievre all of a sudden. Want to bring it back to the area, right? So we want to see that growth happen again and see those people return. On the other note, with respect to shareholders, like that's something that's gone really exceptionally well over the last 2 years. We've attracted some really solid shareholders. Obviously, bringing Eric's brought a lot of new high quality shareholders along with him. So on the back of that, we brought in a couple of new high net worth investors, one of which has been extremely helpful and supportive to me, basically for free, and just wants to see it take off. Actually, two guys who have been extremely helpful to me in terms of arranging introductions, opening doors. And on top of that, we've got two corporate investors in there, both of them very engaged in what we're doing. Small positions, so no one's taken anything away too quickly. They want to see us do as much as we can first and see the opportunity and are happy to be there for us in the future. I know in the last financing, we brought in a couple of really good institutions that the hold period came off our stock like last week. I take it as a good sign. Obviously, we're turning through some shares. Probably some people are taking a bit of money off the table because we've gone up almost a double from where they would have come in. It's been very responsible, it seems like the trading is going quite well. And most of those institutions in particular kind of committed to the idea that they're going to hang in and hold on to their stock. So that's what we want to see. And I think, that gives us the strong foundation for any future financings. If we were to do a share equity or something like that, then we've got a very solid group that will allow us to do a low cost of financing down the road. And by low cost, I mean, we're not going to do a bunch of warrants again. We're going to strike it as close to market as possible. And we'll also utilize the charity flow through premium that we historically get. So whenever you see that, wow, they're pricing it way above market, that's because you've been able to do a charity flow through and have high quality shareholders on the back end of that to come in and buy up those shares. So that's something we've done very well on, particularly on the last deal. And Manitoba in particular has some of the best premiums on that charity flow through, just because there isn't a lot of options there, and there's actually a significant number of very wealthy professionals in that area that need those kinds of opportunities. So it's a win for us and it's a win for our shareholders. Keeps the dilution to a minimum. So I think it's become a big strength for us. I think we've got any deal, we've already got half the deal done, which is where you want to be.
Yeah, without a doubt, no question about that. And yeah, with that shareholder base. And the fact that gold's done pretty well. Since the last time I talked to you, it's got to be up $600 an ounce. It's incredible, the price. And hey, sky's the limit. But with all the news you may be coming out with in the next little while, you mentioned that you would consider a raise, but that's not necessarily this year, is it?
No, I mean, look, we're always have our eye on where we need to go next, what kinds of funds we need to go there with an eye on where the market is to try and make sure that we time it appropriately. Obviously, it's very challenging to get it. Your stock runs up. It's not like you can just turn around and raise money. We were at 27 for a while. It's not like I could just turn on a financing at that price. But we do try to make sure that when we do something, there's a concrete plan for where those funds are going to get invested in. So we raised $7.8 million in December of last year. We've spent half of that on the 15,000 meters we've drilled, and now we've basically given our investors two large systems that extend right next to the mine at depth. Basically two new discoveries that could fold into a mine plan in the near future. So these aren't things for 10 years from now. These are 18 months to 24 months, and bring these into resource with a bit more drilling between here and next year. We could actually probably convert a lot of this into our 43-101 resource update. We've given a lot of value. How many times have you seen a mining company raise 5 or 6 million and you're hard pressed to figure out what you got out of it? Because you got some drilling news releases, but none of it stitches together. You're still 10 to 15 years away from anything. That's not the case here, right? We spent 3 million and we returned the potential for 400,000 or 500,000 ounces, and on top of that, a line of sight on how to grow that to even more. That's a very big return. That's the kind of opportunity we can provide. Not dissimilar to some of the other, companies that have assets on the ground and have been able to leverage that, like West Red Lake has done over on the Madsen projects, leveraging off of that infrastructure and showing the resource has a lot of room to grow. And we're not even underground yet. We're going to be underground soon. I don't think we've talked about that, but once we do that, I mean, you're going to see a real uptick in productivity because you're drilling closer to the areas of interest. You can drill shorter holes, more productive holes, and you can target particularly into some of these areas underground that are much higher grade. So that's something you can look forward to seeing by kind of that July time frame, is a more active drilling campaign in the underground. We should have the electrical up and running here in the next week or two. Ventilation's already working. The levels don't need to really be rehabilitated. We found some equipment that's operational, tracks and the rails already there. It's going to be a pretty quick, pivot for us from surface drilling into the underground here in the short term.
Incredible time of it. You got an amazing summer ahead of you. I can see it now.
Yeah. That's good.
Well, I have to say that I'm pretty excited right there up beside you. Can't speak for you, Kevin, but I'm pretty darn excited. And so with that, we appreciate that you were able to come and join us today and chat with us. We've gotten lots of insights, lots of golden nuggets. And one of the most beautiful things I love about that is that we get to be educated as shareholders and go along for the ride, but we also have the opportunity to share the message with others who also want to learn the story and get those powerful insights and really, really, really start to, put 1911 on their stock watch.
Well, great. Thank you. And again, I appreciate the opportunity to come on here and unfortunately ramble on a little bit, but I think you could see that we're a little bit excited, about what we've got going on here. And, markets are up and down and all over the place. We have the capital and the people needed to deliver on a lot of what I've just said. So we look forward to a very busy year ahead. And we look forward to kind of coming back out and providing a lot more information with respect to the actual time frame and cost of getting into production and what that's going to look like. And then, crystallizing these exploration opportunities into actual mineable reserves for the next year and a half, coming very quickly.
Calling all savvy investors in mining and resources, seeking the inside track on 1911 gold? Look no further than mindstalkers.com for cutting-edge knowledge and real-time stock updates. Visit for the insights and stay for the gains. Seize the opportunity and explore the magic at mindstalkers.com. Uncover new investment possibilities today. Don't forget to hit the bell below to subscribe and then like and share this video. Let's get the word out there.